I thought I had up already.
And
Clearly
Dr. Mike,
not.
we see your Zoom window, we don't see,
Oh, you don't see my screen?
we see your Zoom screen. Not your Zoom, your Teams
That's weird.
window. Yeah.
How about now?
Looks good.
Okay. So this I am going to put into the chat so that you can peruse it as well. And I will scroll down every few moments for those of you that want to just read it off of my screen. You know what else we have to pull? Yeah. Hold on. Okay, folks, anyone have any comments on the minutes? Anything that we need to adjust? Can't necessarily approve them as we don't have all of our members here to come to consensus. But just in the short term, everyone, should we get our other folks on, give me a little thumbs up if we're good to go on that. Thank you, Mr. Marino. Thank you, Eden. Okay, so we'll come back to this. Thank you, David. We'll come back to it. Should we get our other constituents to join, we'll ask them to review, and we'll come together on consensus when it comes to that. So I will bring our meeting excuse me, to order. As I mentioned to you, the things that we're going to be going over today will be in the space of updates and reminders, DLT norms. We're going to review those each time. I'm going to talk to you, give you a little update on the DLT language access update, where we are with that. I'll put the presentation into the chat, so if you want to follow along that way, you're welcome to. We're going to be going over DCEP goals, our BOY data currently, our DCEP feedback, subcommittees and school assignments. I do have something that I want to revisit with that with you guys. In past practice, we would all adopt some schools around just being supports as DLT members. I'd like us to revisit that again today if we could. And then hopefully by December, identify the schools that we will each be assuming responsibility to support SLTs wise. Just a reminder, our district team norms: one person speaks at a time. We're going to engage in rounds of turn taking. We're going to avoid repetitions. Pass if there's nothing new to add. Equal airtime, making sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. Cell phones to vibrate. That's more of a in-person one, but even at home, let's try to make sure that, or in the office, that we're staying connected. Remain present and on task. Follow protocols and accept non-closure. Just going to continue to support each other in this space, and if we are falling off track, that we're there to support one another through the process. So a very brief connection before content activity. If you can pick up a new skill in an instant, what would it be? Just take a moment to independently reflect on that space. If you could pick up a new skill in an instant, what would that skill be? I certainly have one which I will share with all of you guys in just a moment. So just to give you a little bit of context for me, I am not what you would call Mr. Fix-It kind of guy. I'm usually the guy that calls someone on the phone to please come and take care of it, because typically, anytime I try to fix something, I usually do it wrong the first time, and then learn from it, and then wind up picking up the pieces after I built something incorrectly. The latest one that I had built was the basketball hoop for my son. I got all the way through most of it, only to realize that I did not do one of the parts correctly, which would have impacted the entire basketball hoop. So something that should have taken 2 hours took me probably around 8. So if there was something that I would like to learn to do, was one, maybe follow directions a little bit better, but also have the wherewithal to make sure that I knew what I was doing before I even started. So that's certainly a skill that I wish I was a little bit better at, putting those pieces together. Probably saved me a lot of money in the long run too, but that is for me. Mr. Marino, I see you on. Anything that you would say that you would like to pick up?
I already have the ability to focus on many things at once, which really applies itself well to my job. I wish I could acquire the skill of focusing on just one thing. I would like people tell me that they're able to do it. I have no frame of reference to just be able to focus on one thing at a time. There's always the multiple pots on the stove.
Yeah, I hear that. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. David.
So I didn't know you guys were talking about real skills. I put teleporting at first because I was just thinking about traffic, going back and forth to work. I don't know. After the pandemic, this New York traffic is crazy, and I just don't want any part of it. But for a real skill, I guess it would be to understand 0 and 1s, like to be like a hack. Well, not like a hacker, a legal hacker, but like a legal hacker. Just that I have the skills of like, that where the CIA wants to recruit me because I am the best on computers and I'm unstoppable.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Rachel.
Well, like David, my first thought was something grandiose, and that would be to speak all languages. I've been bilingual for many years, but I've always wanted to be more fluent in French, and lately I've been into Korean dramas, and I would just love to be able to speak all languages and communicate with all people, not just those that speak the languages I happen to speak.
I love that. That's awesome. That's a great one. Eden.
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. I have like no voice, but for me, it would be honestly being able to like have a calendar picture in my brain to always know like where I am at all times. Cause I feel like juggling everything, I'm all over the place. But also like going off of what Rachel said, like I know sign language and I'm trying to learn Hebrew. So I really want to like learn more languages and be able
I
to
love
communicate
that.
with more people.
Yeah, and I think that just the value of being able to say that we know more than one language. Unfortunately here in the United States, it doesn't always seem to be as valued as it is other places, for whatever reason. But I love that. I think being multilingual is really, really awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Gus.
Let me get my audio up and my video. I'm like you. When I try to put things together for my grandson or my son, I always end up with extra parts that I don't quite know where they fit. And ultimately, I determined that I didn't follow the directions as well. So I I usually let the women in my life put things together because they're much better at it than I am. So I have to follow directions and be more careful in putting things together. So that's a skill that I need to hone in on and improve.
Yeah, I love it. So it's funny, Gus. My dad was not necessarily Mr. Fix-It either. So I think I pulled some of that from him. And as a kid, it's funny. You see just natural capacity for something. My cousin who is Mr. Fix-It. You put anything in front of him, he just knows how to do it. And growing up, it would always be very amusing. My 7-year-old younger cousin would come and watch my dad doing something plumbing wise underneath the sink, and he would be, "Unc, I want to let you know you're not doing that right." My dad's like, "Oh, get out of here." So I think I inherited that trait from my father. That's for sure. All right, guys, thanks so much for engaging in that small little activity. Any of our other team members that are on, that you have a clever one real quick that you want to throw out there? Okay, let's move forward. So just SLT training recap. One, thank you guys for participating in the session and sharing information in whichever area that you spoke on. We did send out a survey to our community regards to the training session. We didn't get what we would call a huge amount of feedback, but we did receive some from our families that I want to give us an opportunity to look at individually, and then share out some of the things that kind of resonate with you in regards to some of the responses that we received, either from a teacher, a parent, or an administrator. And as you review it, what did our SLT say? What adjustments should we consider as we move forward as a DLT to help support our SLTs in different ways? And anything that you notice in terms of adjustments to our vision statement that we should consider moving forward as well, because we did receive, albeit not a lot of feedback on the vision statement. We did receive some things there that I thought were pretty interesting, that I think an adjustment is worth talking about. So I'm going to open it up on my screen. I'm also going to share it in the chat so that you guys, if you want to look at it on your own, you're welcome to do that. So there is the spreadsheet. The first column that you'll see here says, what does the District 25 vision statement mean to you? Are there additional elements you think it should include? Then it's, do you have any questions that may have been left unanswered following the SLT training? And as we plan for the future, what are some things that we should consider? So just take a few moments independently, and then we'll come back and do a quick little round in regards to what you think we should consider forward thinking wise for our future SLTs. Let's take another 30 seconds. So if you could just be in that space of reflection, what did our SLT say? What adjustments based on their feedback do you think we can and should consider moving forward? And did you see anything in some of the feedback regarding the vision statement that we should also be considering as a district leadership team to adjust? So in any of those spaces, things that that you saw as an area of what we should focus on, and then we'll do a quick whip around, and I'll do that based on who I see on the screen first, and then anyone else that wishes to kind of interject. So, Mr. Marino, you're the first on my screen. Is there anything there that you saw from what SLTs said, albeit only 34 responses?
Yeah.
That's something we can extend more of an invitation again, but that's currently what we have. Anything that you saw in it.
I mean, it doesn't say like, oh my God, it was amazing. It says it was informative, right? It's very the content that we're discussing is not by itself something that is like so by itself engaging, right? So it's just very dry information that talks about the nuts and bolts of how a school works. So I don't expect it to be for the feedback to be so colorful. Someone said it was boring. Someone said, but mostly people said it was very informative. So I think that as long as people are learning about the process and they're understanding how to run their SLTs and parents are understanding of what goes on at these meetings and how they can be more involved as parents, I think that we're doing our job. Could we make it more engaging somehow? I guess we have a year to talk about that. I wouldn't know how. Maybe interactive, maybe quicker, maybe earlier, later. I don't know. Yeah. So,
Thanks, Rob.
yeah.
Gus, anything else you want to say more?
I noticed one person had a question about the PAC representative, and the question was couched in terms of voting. And so the concept that you don't vote on an SLT apparently was not absorbed by that person because, we repeated consensus over and over again. So that was a little concerning. I did see one comment that I thought it was a positive comment, and we uh, did include something like that in SLT training in the past, but recently it has not been there. That's community resources. We might want to add a little slide or information uh, about SLTs surveying their communities and trying to maximize community resources that for the school, because that is something that is a key activity that SLTs could engage in, but it's not normally done, and it might need a little guidance to happen.
Yeah, and you know what? That could be a recommendation that we share based on, the work of DLT, how we're reaching out to our communities to gather some more feedback, which I know many of our schools already do. But I think perhaps its connection to the SLT maybe perhaps is not as much as it should be. It's almost separate and apart. Yeah, thank you for that, Gus. Eden, anything that you noticed?
I think the biggest thing, other than like obviously it's kind of cut and dry, like it's information we just gotta have to get out there. I think people are looking for it to be more interactive. And I know we're in like a tight time of how we do it, but like finding a way to get it to be a little more interactive is what people are really asking for in some of that feedback.
Yeah, agreed. I think I noticed that as well. Thank you for that, Eden. Rachel?
Yes, tagging on with what Eden said about interactive, the one suggestion about breakout rooms, I thought that was a great idea. Maybe midway through, seeing what kind of questions people have, just giving them a chance to, make it more interactive, but also try and have a goal, like how you do with these types of trainings, where you start off with like an icebreaker. If we decided to have it towards the beginning, I think that type of interactive tool would really make it more engaging, which is what some of the feedback seems to want.
Agreed. Lamar or Monique? Not sure if you got a chance to look at the feedback part of this. So if you didn't, that's fine. You can just pass.
Yeah, sorry. No, I didn't get a chance to look at it. So I'll pass. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, Monique. Lamar, I'm not sure if you were able to see the feedback from the community.
He put in the chat that he's driving, so he's listening more than.
Okay, no worries, Lamar. And David.
Yeah, I saw, it was limited feedback. I would try to get like more feedback, but so somebody said that they wish the meeting was not as long. So I guess you have different type of people who are in that meeting. You have people who have been in the SLTs for a while and then want some newer kind of information. Then you have people, I guess, who've never been in the SLT. So kind of breaking up the SLT training is something that I thought about too. Like SLT for beginners or SLT for people who've been in there for a while, you know?
Yeah, thank you for that, David. And I think, you know, in general, and Rob, you kind of alluded to this, everyone was just kind of like, yeah, it was informative.
Mhm.
You know, for the most part. I do think that there are ways that we could make it more interactive. The only trouble with making things more interactive is that it will then extend the amount of time, which was also indicated there that, you know, we want it shorter. So, but I think there are ways that we could try to become creative inside of that space to give a little bit of an opportunity for us not only to be the ones that do some talking during the sessions. And I think we could be strategic around where we can place some breakout opportunities to even raise discussion inside of that space to give us in the moment feedback, whether it's around progress monitoring, action planning, you know, and the like inside of our work. The one other thing that I kind of leaned in on also, I really like this whole idea of this particular one where it's around, it's a really powerful statement, perhaps adding an element of empathy or compassion so that our children in school communities learn to problem solve from a point of compassion. I like the idea of kind of thinking through is what are those foundational skills that we're building. I think this links into SEL quite a bit in terms of how we making sure we're building the whole child, those strong foundations in our kids, to be respectful, to be kind. You know, we have all those acronyms across our buildings, but how do we make sure that our vision statement is emblematic of that mindset? It says it, but can we make it a little bit more clear in terms of how we want our kids to interact with one another? And it aligns with one of our goals anyway, around being respectful. So, and building respect amongst our kids. So that's something I'm wondering about. I'm thinking maybe we can lean in a little bit more in that space, you know, as a district through our vision statement. So we'd love for you guys to kind of think through that. I do plan on organizing some additional statements so that you guys can review and we can talk a little bit more on it. But that, you know, as I was reading through it, that did linger with me a little bit, you know, in terms of our next steps. So, you know, for us, it's around how do we make things a little bit more interactive while not making it more, you know, more time, and while keeping time as a matter of action as well. So, but I think in general, overall, it was informational. We didn't receive a whole lot other than that, with the exception to one person who thought the vision statement itself was boring, and the presentation was boring in and of itself. And I was thinking about it. I said, you know what? They're not wrong. I mean, listening to 5 different groups talk is not what you would consider the most engaging. So I think we can think on that a little bit more as we prepare for next year's SLT session. And maybe perhaps we even think about doing one towards the latter part of the year where we're talking about benchmarking, a very short one, you know, to bring folks together around progress monitoring. We might want to consider doing something like that too.
Yeah, Mike, it's just
yeah.
dry stuff. The stuff is dry. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Unless I wear a funny hat, I don't know how I can make talking about MTSS anymore.
Yeah, I think maybe just that interactive part of it where it's not just us talking at them, and maybe just giving that little break and that little pause in between to do a little bit of talking. You know, I don't know that it'll change the content per se, but maybe it'll give them a little bit of an opportunity to speak.
I've been on things like this where sometimes they give us little mini quizzes, like right after. It's like,
Little
hey,
cahoots, like little Kahoot type of things.
Yeah, just so like, because people like to get things right, so maybe they'll pay attention a little more. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that might be something that's worth us talking about. A little Kahoot action for sure.
Or Dr. Mike, I'm not sure how many
Yeah.
people attended. Hi, it's Monique. Sorry. But just thinking back to when I was a PC and we did those parent chats, would it be possible to, when you do the small groups, to do it in a way where it's a roundabout where everyone gets to sort of ask a question and maybe you can gear it like a parent chat so it's more interactive and then it's more controlled. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you for that, Monique. And listen, I think it creates a space of, how do we do it a little bit better? I don't know that there's a direct answer, but I think just options allows us, as we start reformulating what it could look like moving forward, will allow us to change it a little bit. It might not tickle everyone the next time we do it, but even if we make some adjustments, I think it's better than just doing it the same way. There's clearly there's space that we can improve on it. So,
Yeah.
but I like that suggestion.
Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but just from hearing what everyone's saying, that's why I thought maybe if you wanted more interaction under a controlled environment, then that would be, I thought, a great way to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we would have to consider, we did have probably over 300 people between both sessions, so the number is pretty large, but I think it's worth considering for sure.
No, that was a great turnout. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, and we've gotten good turnouts for the SLT training. We definitely have. Folks head out, which is great. But thinking how we can make it more interactive will make it even better for them. So, but anyway, thank you guys for that feedback. I think it's worth us considering as a team as we organize for the future ones. Just a couple of updates. 169 and Bell had their ribbon cutting and unveiling of the Paul Vallone Community Campus. I thank all of our elected officials, our CEC members for being present for this event. As you can see, we had a number of our folks there, from Senator Stavisky and Senator Liu and Assembly Member Braunstein. We had Borough President Richards. Council Member Palladino was present, along with the entire Vallone family. We had members of the UFT present, from President Mulgrew to Vice President Vaccaro, Lamar present as our district representative, and I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of others that I did not necessarily mention. I think Tom Swazi was present. So there were a number of people there, and I think the event was really very well organized. So shout out to Principal Rosa and Principal Abbott for developing a really nice event, not only for their school but for the community at large. I think it was really nicely done, and a well-deserving honor for our former council member Vallone. So kudos to the both principals of the community campus. DLT language access recommendations for SLT. So just so everyone knows, just a quick update. This was shared with all of our building leaders in terms of the language access rubric, as well as the language access needs assessment. I've asked all of our schools to engage in this work by the end of November, so that we can get some more information on how we're supporting our families. One of the things that we've made a concerted effort for at the district level is to make sure that we have Spanish and Chinese language support at each of our own trainings, which I'll talk about in just a moment, to make sure they're accessible to our community. And I think that's a huge part of our job, is to make sure that our families know what's going on, and language shouldn't be the reason why not. So this particular space was a recommendation from last year. It is underway. One of the things that we can review as a DLT is just to make sure that within agenda, that it's part of agenda items for our SLTs moving forward, and that they're connecting with what that data comes back saying to support our families in a deeper way. Just a quick update on that. Math parent workshop recap. So we had our first in our series of 4. Beth Eaton engaged our community in this workshop series, really around the instructional shifts for mathematics. The recording is available for anyone that was unable to attend. I do encourage all of our DLT members to make sure that you're keeping connected with our with our district site as the events are posted. Lewis does an amazing job, as you guys know, of getting all of that information from those sessions up and posted, so that if folks can't attend, it's a resource, and it's a resource for any of you in any of the roles, whether you are a parent member of the DLT, a building leader of the DLT, or you are part of the UFT. These resources are there, and they help not just our teachers, they help not just our parents. It's accessible for anyone that wants to use the clips. If you find a certain space that I want to highlight this for my parents, or I want to highlight this for my teachers, or I want to highlight this as a building leader, it's accessible there for you. So I encourage you guys to take advantage of those resources. We also hosted a session. Thank you to Lori Cummings at 107 for iReady. We had Landon from iReady, Larson, excuse me, from iReady present to our district community. I want to say we had a good 40 or so parents present. We had iPads out and accessible so that as parents were hearing what was coming, being delivered from iReady, that they were able to access their own kids' information. And what did that look like in terms of iReady performance on the BOY assessment? Why this is good for all of our schools is that this is also recorded. Parents can have a very, very clear viewpoint of how to log in. What does it mean for them as a parent when they're looking at their own child's reports? And then you'll certainly hear me in the background interjecting here or there, because you know I can't help myself but do that. So, but it is a really, really good resource for our parents. I need every single one of our parents in the district to be aware of where their child's falling on these assessments. So regardless of role, I do encourage everyone to get the word out that this is a recording that's available. We're going to be doing it again in the middle of the year and at the end of the year, just at that consistent reminder for families and creating that relational space. This isn't just a session around iReady. This is a session around iReady and your child. So this video is also accessible for you guys on our events page to review and connect with. Acadian's Parent Workshop. This one also super important for our kindergarten through second grade. Our team members engaged our community in this. This was Arifa and Danielle. Really, really great presentation on what Acadians means for our early childhood families. And more importantly, they provided resources with how do I help at home. So I encourage, again, much like iReady, all of our families to be hopping on this session. We're going to do a little bit of an email blast from the district team just to remind families that this resource is accessible to them so that they know what it means for a kindergarten and first grade parent, how my child performed and how do I help them at home with these particular skills that are being worked on at school. So this is available to you guys as well. I encourage you, the videos again posted and accessible for our district community to make use of. And Rob, just for all of our folks with early childhood, this is a really, really great tool. They went over each part of the assessment. So rather than you guys having to worry about where do you find the resources, is really, really good for our building leaders to just tap into and say, here's the recording. What parts of it do I want to use for my own family? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel around any of these types of things. Really, really good resource. And Lamar, for any of our teachers in K1 and 2, really, really great resource for them, as well as they do outreach to families. Here's how your kids performed. Here's what it looks like for you as a parent at home. So really, really good tools there. Upcoming events. We have our grade 2 Acadians workshop is this Wednesday. We have our series of dates that are present here, all of the Zoom links. We're going to be doing a virtual parent workshop series for our English language learner families, particularly in Spanish and in Chinese. So we encourage all of our families to participate in that as well. We have our virtual special education workshop series led by Nathan to support this work moving forward in terms of understanding a child's IEP and what it means in terms of classification and so on throughout the year. So we encourage all of our families to participate in that work. And then iReady will continue, as I mentioned earlier on. Upcoming events. This is something that I do want to make sure that if you're available, would love to see you there. On Tuesday, November 19th, we're going to be doing a Thanks for Giving walk and book giveaway. So that one part of the event is for our families to come with canned goods. for a local food pantry who will be able to help support families during Thanksgiving. But at the same time, you know, we're going to have live music. It's part of it is to engage in kind of a turkey trot where we get to walk around around Bound Park, and also have an opportunity to get some books for our family. So it's a really, really nice event. I would love for any of our DLT members to be present and a part of it, because it's just a nice way to bring community together, aside from the books, aside from you know, helping out the local food pantry. Is just a nice way for us to come together as a community. So I hope to see you guys there for that. Just a quick note in the event that you have not seen this, Monday, December 23rd has been changed in terms of our school calendar. As you guys know, or if you did not know, there was an expectation earlier in our calendar that the 23rd was a school attendance day. That has been changed to a day where schools are closed. This was as a result of a middle schooler that started a petition, as it turned out, in Brooklyn. And because of his petition, connected with our mayor as well as the chancellor, and they made a decision to change the calendar for this school year. So just to put a little note in your own calendars for that, for this year. So what I would like everyone to do, just for a moment, is just take the next 2 to 3 minutes, look at the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides on our presentation. I'm going to put this into the chat again. I will go slide by slide for those of you that can't see it on your own device. But if you do have a device, I ask that you just tap into the next series of slides around our priority areas. It's going to give you a comparison from last year to this year in terms of where we are performing within the context of the targeted subgroups that we've identified from last year to this year. So I ask you just to take a few minutes. What does that data say to you? What do you notice? And what questions does it raise for you as a DLT member? So just the next 3 minutes, I'll put my clock on, and then we'll come back together. quickly stop sharing, and quick go around. Anyone, any noticings or anything that anyone wants to quickly call out in terms of cadence? Now, remember, cadence is K-2.
I have a little bit of a question.
Yeah.
So we had the above benchmark, we had the at benchmark, and then at the other side, there was an at above benchmark. Where's the differentiation there?
It's combining the two. So it's combining those that are at and those that are above. So
Okay,
yeah, so it's taking the above benchmark and at benchmark and then putting them together. So all kids that are at or above is that last column.
okay. So I mean, it looks like a decent number are starting to kind of get ahead, but there is still like a nice chunk that are below. I don't really see as much in the middle. It's either one extreme or the other.
Yeah, thank you for that, Eden. Anyone else say more? Anything else that you noticed?
I noticed that at the beginning of the year, over half for both years were at or above benchmark. So I think that's a positive that we would want to focus on. There was also another screen where the Hispanic language learners were all starting off well below benchmark at about 40%. But then conversely, at or above was 46%. So it was almost evenly split against those that are doing on or above versus those that are well below. So not just slightly below, well below.
Yeah, much more significant percentage of children that are in that well below benchmark range for our Hispanic learners when comparing year over year. Certainly an area that we need to continue to address. And many of the children that are within this subgroup that you wouldn't necessarily see here are our English language learners where English is not the first language. And when you're in kindergarten and first grade, it does impact their ability to perform at or above benchmark space. Just to kind of call out that to make sure that everyone sees that as well. Go ahead, Rob.
This data really, I was looking at my own data for a second. It really mirrors what I'm seeing in my school as well, where the students with disabilities are doing above expectation of what we had predicted. They're doing great. The ENL students overall are outperforming the subgroups. So the individual subgroups are not seeing the growth that we want. So the work continues to trying to support those students in their classrooms with MTSS. Really trying to get to the root cause of why they aren't progressing at the same level as others. But that's what we're seeing. Very, very similar numbers, Mike.
Yeah, and I think the overall improving by around that 3% is while albeit positive, still says that we have a lot more work to do to get to that layer of proficiency that we're looking for. And you know, one of the things, and we'll tease this out a little bit more as we move into our next session, is how many of those children are also brand new English language learners. Now, the kids that were within the first 5 months, we do not test because they really have no English language at all to be able to engage. But we do want to make sure that we're tapping into what are the supports that our newest language learners need in order to be successful moving forward. So during our next session, we'll kind of tease out for you guys so that you can see how many of these children that we're talking about here are still very new to the English language, meaning they're entering or emerging English language learners. So we'll talk more on that during our during our next session. Overall, I do like the idea that we are in a positive trend rather than seeing a negative trend for our K-2, at least at this point of the year. Okay, any other comments? Gus, anything that you wanted to say?
No, Mike, the trends, I agree with Principal Marino, reflect, the school levels. And there's always a great deal of improvement, but always challenges and room for improvement as well. And you didn't have comparisons to the city. You continue to outperform the city in almost every level, I think, in all subgroups.
Yeah, so the iReady and Acadian's performance, I know I don't necessarily get a view of what comparatively speaking that looks like across the city. I can compare only to ourselves, unfortunately. But in general, yes, we do perform at higher rates. But you know, a lot of work to be done here. There's no doubt. So moving into our priority 2, all students are physically and emotionally safe. Just so all DLT members know, we did send out a survey to all of our students in grades 3 through 8, specifically to gather information around SEL, as well as a few components just around respect and the Mind Up curriculum in and of itself. So what that looks like is as follows, just so that you know. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a coughing fit. So each time you see me flip up my microphone, that's the reason why. Sorry about that, guys. So what you'll see over on the left-hand side are the buckets that we've kind of asked our kids to assess. And that is relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, thank you, Louis, and supportive school environment. And inside of a Likert scale of 5 areas. So either strongly agree, strongly agree, disagree, neutral, or strongly disagree. The way that it's situated at the top is unfortunately by alpha, so it winds up getting a little bit wonky when you're looking across each of the different areas. So agree is that first line, disagree followed by neutral, strongly agree, and strongly disagree. But if you can just take a moment also to reflect on what this looks like, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the overall percentage of children that either agree or strongly agree within the context of the questions shared, which we can certainly go over item by item during the next meeting. But I wanted you guys to get an idea of what this looks like now in terms of self-management and supportive school environment. I'll talk to you a little bit more about those in a minute, but just anything that you notice within the areas right here for you guys to quickly review. Just take 1 minute. So just to give you a little bit more context, types of questions, and you'll notice self-management was the the higher of the area, I'm sorry, excuse me, was the higher percentage of children disagreeing or strongly disagreeing. I can continue with a task even when I feel frustrated. Areas where kids tend to demonstrate some difficulty, able to be patient even when I'm really excited. An area where kids typically call out that there is, that it is difficult for them. I try my best even when tasks are hard for me. Types of questions where kids typically wind up calling out as a little bit difficult. And I can stay engaged with lessons even if they don't interest me. And there's one in particular, and this is just one of the samples. This is not the exact slide deck, but there is another one here where we call out, supportive school environment. I inform an adult when I see someone being bullied or harassed. I can trust my school to resolve conflicts. Most students at this school treat each other with respect. This is the supportive environment component, where kids indicated more of a concern than other areas. And then questions around Mind Up is something else that we'll get to. But there's an adult in the school that I can go to when I'm upset. An area still that we have kids that indicate that they don't feel like that happens. Mind Up breaks help me manage my emotions. So kids in this area, you see that space of unsure. It was like 40% of kids say that they're unsure. This is towards this type of question. And for us, it's how do we continue to bolster the use of Mind Up in our schools to make sure that kids know that those brain breaks are intended to help support them. Daily brain breaks help me stay focused. We run the range either from yes to unsure to a good 18% of kids saying they're not really sure that is helping them. And that the lessons help them make better choices. Also, similar type of scenario as to what you see inside of this data, where supportive environment, almost 14% of kids indicate that they either strongly disagree or disagree. And then the self-management questions that we just went over are also ones where kids are finding it a little bit more difficult to kind of connect with. So I just wanted to give you a little bit more context for what those percentages kind of call out. But is it making you guys think anything based on what you see there?
Mike, these are all grades? This is
All grades 3 through 8.
Yeah, I would like to see it aggregated by middle school to elementary school. And that's just what I'm, because I think that middle school is its own thing, and that period of time where they're going through those difficult years tends to lean towards them not having self-management, not feeling like anything supportive in their life. Nevertheless, school, right? Sometimes school is a struggle just to go to. They don't feel good there, and a lot of times kids don't want to get involved, so they want to speak about anything. So not going to have an adult isn't always a referendum on the school environment. Sometimes it's just, it's hard for kids to want to speak up.
Yeah, so we can absolutely break that up 3 to 5, 6 to 8, for sure, to make it a visual for you guys. That's not an issue at all. But I do think that there are some trends that are pretty consistent from elementary to middle. That even if they say things like, I don't feel like there's an adult that I can go to, it raises questions for us as building leaders, as parents, as teachers, with why do they feel that way? And how can we help them feel more comfortable, even in an elementary school, if something that's bothering them, that they know that I can go to, I can go to Lamar, because Lamar is going to be someone that I can go and chat with if necessary. And I think that's pretty consistent, at times, and maybe not school to school, but there are elements of it that do show itself, which Umit's gonna put in there now for our reference. But did it anything else that it spoke to any of our folks, just in terms of overall content? And just so everyone knows, this information is going to be shared with our school case teams. And what we're going to be asking all of our school case teams to do is take a very careful, close look at areas of concern, and then establish a plan of action related to any given area that is concerning, specifically in the spaces of management, how are we managing ourselves, and the things that we can control within our own environment that will promote a supportive environment for kids, so that if they currently don't feel like there is someone that they can talk to, that they can, and they know who that person is in their building that they can go and revisit. So, you know, more to follow on this. We wanted to just give you a little bit of a snapshot. We still have a few thousand children that have to complete this, but this is where we are right now. Just to give you a little bit of context around what our kids are currently saying. And Umit, which one is 6 to 8? The one to the right or left? So Umit just put in the slide, children for 6 to 8, and you can see on the right is 3 to 5. To give you a little bit more context, yes, the percentages on 3 to 5 are a bit higher, but you'll also notice that there are still some spaces of growth that we can make for our kids in the elementary school grades as well. But at any rate, more to follow on that. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. I'm going to ask, similar to the K-2 slides, for everyone just to take the next 3 minutes to review the next 5 slides for iReady, and this is iReady reading, comparing last year to this year. Okay, any noticings? Wonderings?
Well, I noticed that in all of the subgroups, the largest percentage of learners were 3 or more grades below. That was the highest percentage for all of the subgroups, especially the students with disabilities. That was where the largest discrepancy was.
Yeah, our students with IEPs for sure, an area that is a subgroup that we have to continue to work on for sure. Clearly showing itself inside of our data, and we do have a significant students with IEPs population here in the district for sure. Thank you for that, Rachel. Anyone else say more noticings?
You know, something's interesting to me, Mike. I would like to see maybe a side-by-side comparison of students who attended Summer Rising and how they did on the BOI versus those students who had no instruction that we know of over the summer. If that makes sense, because I know it's students that don't engage at all in any type of schoolwork over those 2 months. You know, we assume that they're not going to do as well as kids who had kept up with maybe some summer packets or reading or work. And I know that there's a lot of summer rising programs that are pretty robust. And I would like to see that. Maybe it's something I could even do on my own with my own school population. Just came to mind.
Yeah, whether summer reading loss has had its impact, sure. Certainly something that we can look more into for sure. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mike, all of this relates to something else that's on the agenda. November, all of the schools are going to be engaged in iPlan in progress monitoring. So I'm wondering how this data will relate to that, progress monitoring that is coming up now by the end of this month. Do you have the ability to aggregate that information? I could ask iPlan and see, what they have, and then maybe you could look at it in comparison to the statistics that you have here.
You mean to each school?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you know, Gus, one of the things that we have organized, this is something that we did share with the DLT earlier in the year, that all of our principals have access to, but it gives us the ability to organize our work in a way where we can see what's going on across our schools in terms of performance, and whether or not there is alignment to those things and goal setting. So the answer to that is yes. And I think more importantly for our schools, it's really a conversation around, how does this information allow us to support conversations around MTSS, and who are the children that are receiving some of those additional interventions, and are those interventions working? Is really the big part of the conversation. It's not so much that, did we go up positive? Did we go, did we see a decline? But it's what are we doing with the information now that we have it? That is really the most important part of data work. It's great that we have the information, but it's what are we doing with the information once we have it to support our next steps. And I think that to me is the most significant part of it. So I agree with you around progress monitoring. And I think what all of our schools typically do is they engage in the state of the school address, much like I do a state of the district. All of the schools engage in that, but I think the biggest part of this work is around the action planning that comes after it. What do we do next as a result of our work? And I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're going as a district in a few moments. But to your point, Gus, yes, the progress monitoring is an essential part of this. Where are schools in relationship to the goals that they've actually created? And if they're not on target, what are we doing? Any other feedback or noticings? Now, just so everyone just keeps in mind, there are 6 domains that are assessed in iReady. It's phonemic awareness for the younger kids, phonics, vocabulary, high frequency words, and then comprehension across informational text and literature-based text. And what we do know is that phonics still is an area that we need to continue to build, especially in our kids in grades 3 through 8 that are struggling with the foundational learning skills. So we are still building inside of our classrooms in our grades 3, 4, and 5 space where kids can engage in the use of phonics-based lessons, but also the use of decodable text to help them build that fluency as readers, particularly for children that are currently falling outside that sphere of success. So those are things that we are working on. Absent being able to be fluent readers, it's going to be very difficult for our kids to become children that can comprehend the text. So we're looking to build both of those things as per our goals that we've set forth already. So those are things that we are currently working on within those domains. In mathematics, if we can do, again, just a similar type of scenario, take the next 3 minutes, look through those charts, things that you notice inside of our math work. And any quick comments on mathematics? Noticings, wonderings.
Like I noticed that there's a huge chunk of students who are just one grade level below, which, you know, right away I'm thinking, and it's very similar to my data. With the right data analysis and instructional moves, we're very optimistic on being able to move them to on grade level.
Yeah, very different from reading in that standpoint, where in reading we have a much bigger chunk of kids that are multiple grade levels below standard. In mathematics, you know, the largest percentage outside of on or above happens to be in that one grade level below. So a lot of opportunity for growth there for sure. Anyone else say more? I mean, and lastly, guys, I think that this last slide is important. We do see that there, in general, are positive starting trends for where we're beginning the year than compared to previous years. That the student performance, albeit in some cases small percentages, we're at least performing at higher rates to begin the year than where we did last year. A lot of work, a lot of planning needs to be put in place to support our kids, particularly those that are in those multiple grade levels below. What we do believe right now, as part of our district focus, is, you know, attention towards explicit instruction inside of our classrooms. All of our schools are attending to elements within explicit instruction to ensure that our kids are receiving lessons with really very clear and organized lessons where there's a clear model, clear set of expectations around practice, both guided and independent, so that our kids, what they're receiving, they get to have that practical use inside of our classrooms. What we have found is that we do just need some more TLC in that space as a district community. And using Anita Archer's text, for those of you who do not know Anita Archer, you've heard me call her out here before, but what her work calls out is that, you know, using her mindset and her approach to instruction is good for all kids, but best for children that are struggling learners. So we're digging into that methodology, you know, across our buildings to influence a positive change for our kids moving forward in reading and in mathematics. Mathematics a little bit different in the sense that we're beginning with the exploration, where we're talking about using math routines and using tools like the 3 Reads protocol to promote problem solving, is where we are going inside of math to really promote improved outcomes for our kids. Go ahead, Monique. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just have a question. I mean, is there any opportunity to have Saturday programs in designated areas within District 25 for those students that are struggling? Maybe a smaller class size, less distraction. I mean, I know that years ago the district used to do it for like test prep, but just to give an extra support for those who are struggling in the district. Maybe, you know, 1 day a week extra might help out. I know everyone, and I know the budgets are very tight, but that's why I was saying maybe there was a way we could facilitate where there may be, you know, maybe 2 or 3 locations, depending on where you are residing within the district. It's just an idea. Would that be something that would be possible?
So there's nothing that would be necessarily district led, as we don't have, I don't have a budget that, you know, as you know, Monique, districts don't have budgets to support any kind of programming like that, but our schools are charged with supporting kids through MTSS, whether that be through additional periods in their program or through before and after school programs, which they designate inside of their CEPs themselves. So while budgets are tight, schools do offer those opportunities for kids as the year goes on to support in ELA and mathematics. But it's not necessarily a district run program. Individual schools do that. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. That's a great suggestion, though, Monique.
I know during the day it's very difficult, right? Because they've had a whole day of school trying to do something in the after school program. I mean, I watched the ENL services when I was in the school. I mean, by the time the kids got their snack, got to the classroom, unpacked, it was maybe an hour, maybe. If they were lucky, they would get an hour. It's not enough time. So that's why I was saying maybe some schools should start implementing things on Saturday to give students a little bit more extra time so that they can grasp and actually take full advantage of the support that's being offered.
Yeah, and schools do offer through Title III. Title III is often, particularly for the Ls, where they get those additional services on a Saturday. Can't say that every school is offering a Saturday program, but a number of them do. And things during the week, you always have to be mindful after school, an hour on top of what it is that they've already learned, during the day, is pretty significant. That is enough. That is a good amount of time for any child to be engaged in more literacy work, where it doesn't become exhaustive either. Our little ones inside of our classrooms, we have to try to balance out that too. But point well taken in terms of kind of digging down into seeing what are the programs that are in fact being offered in terms of those extras, so we can get a clearer view as to who's being offered what during the after school or on Saturday.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And the last part, guys, that I want to talk to you about is chronic absenteeism. We'll go right to the back end slide. Our attendance is up by 0.5%, comparatively speaking, to this time last year. We're at 95.4% overall attendance rate as a district, which puts us tied for second across the city in terms of overall attendance rate, which is terrific. Our chronic absenteeism rates are lower than it was at this time of the year last year, by significant percentages of over 4%. In some groups, less than 4% in others, where we have to continue to grow. But we are seeing improvements in our attendance rates as a district community. And something to listen, and our principals know, and Rob will be the first to attest to this, is that they're working really hard on this. It is not an easy thing to solve, but we are, heads down and working to create different spaces for our kids to have access to schools in different ways than what we had seen in the past. And I think just being another year removed from COVID is also a help, where the children that are now coming in would not necessarily have been within that window of having to endure that space. So I'm hoping that these trends continue. Last year at this time, we had seen some positive results. And then when we got to December, we started to see a slowdown. So information for all of our schools, all of our parents, is going to be around sustaining our efforts of being in school every day. Messages will be going out from the district just as reminders to our families, making sure that they are in on a routine basis. Aside from what's going on in our schools, we also want to emphasize it at the district level. So I'm happy that we're seeing progress here. And I think that will translate into greater success inside of our classrooms as well as the year goes on. So more to follow on this. But I'm happy to see that we're making some positive strides with chronic absenteeism rates to this point of the year. And lastly, just so that everyone knows, there will be a parent survey that's going to be shared sometime early this week. just in terms of how are we receiving progress information as parents? Are we receiving progress information? And have we been invited to attend relational type of workshops as community members? Aside from the ones that we're offering at the district level, but are we being invited at the school level to things connected to reading, to things connected to social emotional learning, which I know our schools are already doing. But that survey will be shared with our families to gather some feedback from them. And then for schools where families are indicating that they are not getting that information, that we do a little bit more to share that info via our systems that we send out. I feel like our reminds and our gammas and our emails in some ways are becoming the new bottom of the school bag. So that we have to continue to do some of that outreach. So when those emails come, our families are connecting to them. Because I do have a feeling that at times we'll see it. Oh, it's just a school. I'll look at it later, and then later never comes, and we don't have the information necessary to support our kids in school. So more to follow on this. But I am happy with what I'm seeing our schools do. More and more of our schools are engaging in the First Fridays, Welcoming Wednesdays, Terrific Tuesdays, where they're opening up their doors for kids to visit, for parents to visit classrooms, for parents to connect with the buildings around all things related to reading and the like. So more to follow on that, but just so you know, a survey is going to be sent within the next couple of days to gather information from our community. And lastly, for me, I'm just going to share this briefly, and then I'm going to just make some adjustments to the DCEP. Some of the things that you'll notice, just a minor thing in terms of Borough High School, President's Council, just getting that information. David, I don't know if you can find that out for me, if we have a new high school president for President's Council, so that our information can be updated in our DCEP. Other things that were called out here was just for me to revisit the root causes. I did include a root cause for each of our subgroups, but they're asking me to go back and make sure that I'm connecting within each subgroup to make some adjustments there, including any space around disproportionality. So I'm going to review our DCEP and the language that I included there for root cause analysis to make sure that it's all connected. They called out in terms of priority 4 in particular. Priority 2, I'm going to revisit too, just in terms of specific subgroups when it comes to the social emotional learning goal. But this one really mostly called out the focus on New York City Kids Rise and the Safer College program. And for us to emphasize this as a district to increase the number of families that are participating in New York City Kids Rise so that more kids are taking advantage of that scholarship program. Just so that everyone knows, any kid that signs up in kindergarten gets $100 in a savings account for college, and that continues to accrue over the course of time. So they kind of called out the idea of bolstering that in district. So that's something that I will work on making a goal towards. We have 2 team members that were actually part of the committee that helped write the Safer College and New York City Kids Rise curriculum. So, more to follow on that, but we'll make some adjustments when it comes to the goal there. Progress monitoring, they just asked that I, make sure that I'm including the survey, the student surveys that we're going to be using, which we've already administered, so that I don't see that as being problematic. And then they just gave general feedback around enhancing our action steps for each of our goals. It was a very generic statement for each of our priorities 2, 1, 3, 4, in terms of including things around L services and support, which are already available in our plan, but I'm going to organize around that to make it a little bit more robust. And the same holds true for priority 5 and our chronic absenteeism. They're just asking for more details in terms of our progress monitoring, in terms of our action steps that we're taking, which I will add more to that plan so that you guys can review it as well. And then lastly, progress monitoring. This I'm not worried about. We have really good systems put in place. I'm going to revisit the language and adjust as necessary to make sure that we are on board with what the city is calling out. But that was really in a nutshell, the feedback that we received from generic to getting a little bit more focused on what we're putting in our action plan. So I'll make sure that's more robust, and I'll share it with you guys during the December meeting for review. And we will kind of go from there. But that concludes my space. Gus, I'm going to turn it over to you.
And Mike, the deadline for DCP now is December 23rd. That's the information that was shared with me. So they, because of the lateness of getting the feedback to DLTs, they extended the deadline to the 23rd. So that's when they're looking for the updated document to be uploaded and completed by all SLTs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my second agenda item first, CEP completion and posting updates. I've shared the CEP timeline with you in the past, so you should all have it. November 22nd, principals are supposed to upload their SLT signature pages. So that's an upcoming deadline. I did not receive a update on submissions yet for for all of Queens North. I have a 2 o'clock meeting this afternoon with Central, so I assume maybe I'll be getting that at that point. But that's something that's pending. Hopefully we won't have a lot of other stragglers in District 25. You're usually very good, so hopefully everything will be there. The other deadline is by December 6th. Superintendents are supposed to finalize all the CEPs, and they're supposed to be posted on a rolling basis. We already talked about the progress monitoring that takes place now in November for all schools in iPlan. And then there's other progress monitoring in February and June. The other item that's supposed to be taking place on a monthly basis and is a segue to the other portion of what I have to say is everyone is supposed to be uploading their SLT and PAC information for Title I schools into iPlan on a monthly basis. And they will be issuing, they already have, which I've shared, is to, which schools are actually doing that and which schools have not done that on a monthly basis. And so that is, as I've told you in the past, an ongoing new learning curve that hopefully will reach 100% completion by the end of the year and become institutionalized and routine. I believe it was District 25 and 26 that asked a question from Central as to who should be, that if an SLT member uploads that information, whether they could be paid for the time, additional time doing that. That came back, and I shared it with the districts that yes, as long as certain parameters are met. And you received that, right, Mike? You have that from me. The question that I have, and I have a 2 o'clock meeting, and I'm going to ask them, is if that SLT member, as opposed to somebody, the principal or somebody, from this, the administration doing it, then they, do they need to have edit access in order to do that in iPlan? That's a question that I don't know. It's a technical question. So I'm going to ask that this afternoon, and I'll email the answer to the superintendents. So we're clear on that, because obviously if there's an expectation that that person do that, then they have to have that kind of access, and then we have to make sure that they have it. And that then opens up the question about editing CEPs and the rest of it. So it's a new procedure. that's part of it. Now, it's a segue to my next item. And I don't know whether, Louis, can I share my screen? So I don't have to bother you. Let's see, do I have that share? Sign
You should
in.
have share access, Gus. Yeah.
I should be able to share, right? Let's
Yep.
see. Where is it? It's not on the top. And it's not on the bottom.
It should be on the bottom, Gus. You
Should be
should
on
see,
the bottom.
yeah, you should see audio, video, participants, chat, react, and then share, the share button.
Ah, there it is. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Yeah. Central has actually they've surprised me. They've done a really good job in sending a whole bunch of samples that SLTs can use, and guidance, like the documents, and I attach them all for you to share with the DLT. But this is, for example, uh, prompts on minutes, just to make sure that SLT meetings are capturing correct information. So if you look at this one here for parent information, it gives tips and questions that would engage the SLT in the information. Because remember, one of the things that they're monitoring is they're looking for proof in the information that's put in on a monthly basis for whether parents and whether the communities, the constituents, are actually engaged in discussions vis-a-vis issues related to the CEP. And so what they did, which I thought was a good thing, is they came up with questions and guidance to make sure and help people know how to do that. Let me throw up the other sample. For example, here are this is a sample for how minutes could be handled as well. So they have about 4 or 5 of these things, and I looked at them and I thought they were extremely useful. And hopefully they can be shared with all of the SLTs, and people will look at them, and that will provide them with some guidance, because it's a new procedure and people are doing it, but they don't necessarily know how to write it up and how to put the stuff in. So it doesn't mean that you should just cut and paste and copy, the stuff in there. It's meant to give you guidance and information and prompts that then you can adapt for your own purposes in putting this information in. And the same goes for the PACs as well, because again, it's a new procedure for the PACs. They hold their meetings, they have their agendas, they have their minutes, but they're not necessarily used to capturing this information and putting it in the proper way on a monthly basis. So hopefully the schools will find this information useful. And as I always say, we can always improve things. And the improvements generally come from information that's provided to us from the field. So if in using these things, you find some, are not as helpful, or you would like to see something clarified or extended or added to, by all means, email the district office. They will convey the information to me, and I will share it with Central, and hopefully they'll be able to improve this stuff. So as we go along, more and more guidance will be forthcoming. And as I said, this is a new procedure, so there's a learning curve, and I expect a time lag. But going forward, I hope by the end of the academic year, it'll become more routine, and more and more schools in Queens North will reach the 100% completion rate. I think those are the items that I needed to cover. The annual meeting information also is being put into, that was supposed to take place by the end of October and should have been put into iPlan. There's now a separate tile for that. So I expect to be getting, completion and incompletion lists from Central, which I will share with the district office. And hopefully we won't have too many schools in District 25 and in Queens North in general. We tend to be better than the rest of the city in terms of completing all of these things on time. So I'll share that information with the district office as I get it. And if there are always any technical issues or questions or problems at the school level, by now everybody should know that I'm available by phone, Teams, or by email virtually 24/7. So they can contact me. And if I'm not able to solve the problem, I'll get a hold of whoever in Central we have to get a hold of to provide the technical assistance to solve the issue at the school level. Any questions, folks, on any of this stuff? And if
No,
not,
Gus, I think it's they're helpful resources that we can send out to all of our schools, especially when it comes to taking minutes and more importantly, I think maybe perhaps it'd be something that we can open up if someone needs to hop on a quick office hour, so that if they're having a hard time posting things in iPlan, that it's that someone could be available to assist, because it's one thing to post things, and then it's another to run into a problem, and then it just creates something that should take 2 minutes, takes a half hour, and I know those are things that our building leaders try to avoid as much as possible, so that it is not taking more time than necessary, than for them to be able to be on top of. So that's just something maybe we can organize in terms of
yeah, I mean,
TLC.
if an individual school or groups of schools, or you want to build some training, going forward for any aspect related to this, we can do that, and I will participate, and if necessary, I'll get somebody else from the central team who has expertise in a particular area that is being questioned to make sure that their expertise is shared and assistance is provided. I know that we had 2 schools in District 25 that needed some extra support, so we got a hold of, Esther was terrific. She helped out with this, and we held a special meeting and provided extra materials and support for those schools. Hopefully, state ed will now be surprised, and the questions that they were around parent pieces will be resolved and go away, because that's always my goal, to get state ed to leave our schools and leave my districts in Queens North alone as much as possible, and not make a lot of inquiries, because I understand perfectly well that everyone is stretched to the limit and has a lot to do. And when we get these inquiries from Central and from the outside, that's just an additional level of work that people don't need. So my goal is always to make that not happen in the first place, and then go away as soon as possible. And hopefully we've done that for those 2 schools at this point.
Okay, thanks so much, Gus. Monique, I see your hand.
Yeah, sorry. I just have a quick question with the iPlan portal. And this has to do with our members, DC 37 members. The parent coordinator is asked to usually observe and to be on, they're not on SLTs, they're there as observers. Now, are they tasked with uploading information into the iPlan? Because some of them have brought to my attention, and not just this district, other districts, that they're being asked they're given access to the iPlan so that they can upload the information for the members on the SLT. So just want clarification for that.
Yeah, that's a SLT in a school issue. That's up to the school and the collaborative process of the SLT to decide who's putting that into iPlan. If obviously if they've determine that the family coordinator is going to be the person responsible for that task, then they have to have access. And like I said, I'm going to see whether Edit Access is responsible. I'll ask Matt Zrillik this afternoon, who is the iPlan expert, whether that's necessary or not, or they could just drag and drop it in without having Edit Access. But I'll get that answer and I'll share it. But obviously, they have to have iPlan access if they're charged with doing it. And the way
Right.
they get iPlan access is through the principal. And if the principal has any technical difficulty in doing that, they need to email iPlan and copy me, and we'll make it happen.
So I just want to bring this to the attention of the DLT because parent coordinators should not be tasked or given access to iPlan because they are not members of the SLT. They're
Yeah, they're
just
optional members, right?
Yeah, they're not members. They can be part of a subcommittee, but they should not be given access to iPlan to upload information that should be done by the members of the SLT or the chairperson. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page because as I'm getting phone calls, because the rules and regs state that they cannot serve, they should not be part of uploading information on that iPlan. So just wanted to be able to get feedback and to just state that that is something that should not be done because in black and white, they're not part of that.
And Monique, you're actually reminding me of something. I am going to be attending a meeting with Sharon Rencher where they're going to share with us the A655 new regs. Apparently, a committee has been meeting for quite some time, and they're about to issue a revised version of A655. You're not part of that group, are you?
No,
No, I know that there have been discussions in the past about the role of DC 37 members. So I don't know whether there's been a change in A655 in connection to that or not. But that will be something that will be upcoming in a meeting. But if you've been getting those questions and you would like to email me the question in the format that you have it, I will share it with Central and see whether they have any any guidance, because it's really a policy question, it seems to me. My understanding is that it would be up to the SLT and the school level, the way it is in terms of their participation in general, since they're not a mandated member right now with the old regs. But if they're not mandated members and they're being charged with doing this, then is that proper? So that's a policy question. So I don't have the answer to it, but I'd be happy to relay it to Central. And you're DC 37 for 25, but I'm sure it relates to your colleagues that sit on the other DLTs that we have. And maybe it's already addressed in the new A655 regulations. I don't know. Maybe they've changed the regulations, or maybe they haven't in terms of DC 37. So it's a
Yeah, and I think
that's
Gus,
being brought up.
if you can kind of raise it up, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think differentiating between what the ask is important. Being a non-sitting DLT member, and posting something is different from them having to now execute. Did you create the agenda? Did you create the minutes? Putting those things up, I don't see as problematic as perhaps being someone who now is tasked with doing all of the things associated with it.
That's a good question.
If they're available and then you just have to push a button that says, okay, it's now up there. I don't see as problematic as, okay, you have to write all of the minutes, you have to keep all of the minutes, you have to write up the agenda, and you're almost becoming a pseudo secretary. I see that being problematic. Not maybe as much as just click the button to get it up there.
well,
But
I also
I
think
think we can
too, we
follow
don't.
up on it.
Sorry, Dr. Mike. We also want to is that as we know, parent coordinators have been tasked to do many things. They wear many hats. And so they're observing on the DLT. They're not part of the team as of right now. I will look into that. Actually, ask my director to look into the A655 to see what entails for as far as including the PC in that. But the issue is that you have people who are serving on DLT right now. They're receiving a stipend. They have positions. You have your secretary, you have your chairperson. You have, everyone has a role. The person who signed on for the role to be the secretary of SLT should be responsible for uploading that information and should not be tasked for a parent coordinator to do.
Yeah, so Gus, you can
Yeah.
certainly follow up
Thank you.
Yeah.
and get more feedback.
So I have two questions that I'll ask at 2 o'clock this afternoon at the central meeting related to this. And I will let you know what I find out.
Okay, thanks, Gus.
Thank you.
Okay, so just quickly going through the next part of our agenda, which is our constituent conversations. Rob, we'll start with you. CSA, any updates or anything that we need to be made aware of?
Nothing as far as that would be so pressing, other than we had our annual conference this weekend. The theme seemed to be productivity. That the keynote speaker was focused on that. That's something that I could speak to as far as administrators across the district are trying to come up with new ways to be efficient, productive. We can't create more time, but we can do more with the time that we do have. It's a complex role to be a New York City school administrator, and what we do or do not do directly impacts student achievement. So we're doing our best to start re-examining how we could better be efficient, especially with new productivity tools that are becoming available to us. And we look forward to furthering that work to improve our schools.
Okay, thanks, Rob. High school superintendent's report. David, you have something from the high school superintendent?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen right now. I'll go over real quick because I know we're in the essence of time. Let's just do this. My computer's acting very slow. All right, I'll just go through it briefly. Oh, here it goes. Now it's acting. So again, my name is David Swift. I'm filling in for Eduardo Duarte to the best of my abilities because his shoes are unfillable. I guess we've done this, the outcomes, the mission, and vision. He brings that up every meeting. So I just want to inform the family forum dates. We have our next family forum, November 26th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We'll be going over the high school application process. You guys will be receiving a flyer about that with the link, and we'll be having translation. We're also going to have the Nicole Theo from enrollment. She's going to be doing some sessions on, she's going to be able to present on the high school application process also. We have Tuesday, November 12th, our Queens North High School Fair. So we have from 5 to 7 p.m. at Atlas High School. We have almost all of our high schools are going to be represented there. And again, Nicole Theo will also be there to talk about the high school application process. She's going to have 3 sessions from 5:30 to 6, 6 to 6:30, 6:30 to 7. We've had our community chats. These are the 4 chats that we've had so far. Actually, we have a 5th one, and I'll go over that right after this. Great community chats at Baccalaureate, Academic American Studies, RFK, and Aviation.
And then we had the legislative breakfast at Flushing and Veritas High School, where the students presented to the legislators what their needs that they had. They've done this 3 years in a row. The last one got them to get $3 million to improve the library. So they're in the finalizing the plans. And I believe this summer is where they're going to break ground and start fixing up the library. But because of this legislative breakfast that they do each year, the result that they got $3 million, and it was Flushing, Veritas, and the other school that's on campus. That's not one of Queens North High Schools, and I forgot the name of it. But it's the whole campus is a campus-wide thing, and you can see PD is there, a bunch of legislators are there, and it's a great time. And it's the students. Each school does a presentation on what they feel is the needs of their campus. So Queens North, if my computer would not act up, Queens North is going to be doing a partnership series from Morningside for teaching social responsibility. We already had, it's a 6-part series monthly. And here is we had the titles, but then so we got after the first workshop, we had about 100 parents that came and they enjoyed it. They just would have wanted to know exactly like a blurb of which each workshop was. So now we created a blurb with each workshop. And so the parents could see, but they had a great time. Morningside did a great job of hosting and facilitating the workshop for teaching social responsibility. And you can see here are the different titles of building a community of caregivers. This is what happened in October. The next one is balancing the joys and stresses of caregiving. And, parents really enjoyed just having a space to come together with other parents and, just talk about, the stresses of being a caregiver and having kids in this day and age and everything that's going on. So it was a great, it's great for social responsibility and the mental health of our parents in our districts. And that's it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much, David. I appreciate you sharing that information. I agree. Today is no time like the present to connect with families around what it is to be a kid, for them to be raising a kid today.
Yes.
Certainly super important. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Eden had to step away. She just wanted to remind everyone that this Wednesday is our next upcoming CEC meeting, and to encourage all families within our district community to attend, whether it be in person or virtual, and also to register for our Chancellor's Town Hall, which is on November 18th. So just making sure that we're getting the word out to our community about both of those things. Rachel, do you have anything from President's Council?
Well, we were successfully able to fill the recording secretary position at our last meeting. So now we have minutes going forward and I won't have to do all of them. And our next meeting has been moved to November 25th as a result of the Chancellor's Town Hall on the 18th. So we look forward to seeing all of our representatives at that meeting.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. Super excited that you were able to bring on that that third member. So really, really cool. David, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I forgot to say, you guys asked who the Queens High School President's Council president was. I put her information, Shernette Williams, and her email and her phone number in the chat. So you guys can update the information.
Yeah, thank you, David. I actually already sent it to Esther and Jenny to do some outreach to her to welcome her to our DLT, let her know when our upcoming dates are. So thank you for that.
No problem.
UFT Lamar, looks like he had to step out. Monique, anything from DC 37?
Just a reminder, getting a lot of phone calls. I'm on phone coverage today, that please remind principals to remind their DC 37 staff that they are remote tomorrow. They are working remotely. And I'm asking them to have conversations with their principal about what they're supposed to be doing tomorrow from home. And then we're just excited about the election and go vote. That's it. Thank you.
I like it. Thank you, Monique. And who else? Did I miss anyone? I don't think I missed anyone. I think that is it in terms of our constituencies. Any new business anyone has? Okay, no new business. So our minutes, it looks like we were in a good place, and then we just had a few people that had to hop off. So we will revisit coming to consensus on our minutes during our next session. Our next meeting is on Monday, December 9th. This one we will be holding in person. Folks, as you remember, we talked about in our September meeting to host meeting. I can't believe we're talking about a December meeting already, but here we are. So that next one will be in person. We'll have more information around updates to our DCEP. We won't have to worry about getting to the December 23rd. That will be ready for our December 9th meeting so that we can collectively decide whether or not there are new adjustments that need to be made. So that will be all good to go by the 9th. So looking forward to seeing everyone in person. We'll get those invites out to our new members. And if I don't see you, please make sure that you enjoy family and friends during what we're entering into the holiday season, especially Thanksgiving. I know I'm likely to see many of you because we have a few things that are up on the docket, including a town hall and CEC later this week. So there are a number of community-based events, including our Thanks for Giving Day, which I'm hoping you guys are able to join. So if I happen to not see you in between those things, have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving with your families, and try to rest up and relax and enjoy, really important time with those that we love. So other than that, guys, are we good to bring this meeting to a close? Get some thumbs up, head bobs. Perfect. All right, guys, I will be on until, excuse me, everyone hops off in the event that anyone needs to chat with me. Other than that, have a great day all.
Thank you.
Everyone,
Take care. Have a
happy
great day.
Thanksgiving.